Welcome back, my friends, to the show which never ends. With an anthropomorphic hen, come inside, come inside. Come join me and Viv, talk about creatures that live in the darkness of your id. Come inside, come inside. Come inside, believe me folks, it's great. Streaming on the last Wednesday at 8. Come inside and hear us, well you know. We'll take you places you want to go. Come and see the show. The Comedy Rhino. Come and see the show. It's great, you know. They're behind us boxes in criminal in a box. There's Canadian Dave Scott. Come inside, come inside. Goodness, it's his miss. The one and only Ian Squibbs. Exposing late multitudes. Come inside, come inside. Come inside. The show's about to start. An insane mix of science, class and art. Come and see the show. It's good, you know. Come and see the show. The last Wednesday show. This is even weirder than it was. As I'm going to tell you in a minute. I'm here. Thank goodness for that. That was not fun. I'd managed to cut myself out of the... Can you hear us, V? Anyway, V is here, but whether he's going to be doing his best to sort his technical problems out. But anyway, for reasons I'll tell in a minute, I have not been feeling particularly functional. V, you are in. Excuse me, everybody. You two talk for a second. I'll fill you in the rest of this stuff afterwards.
Yes, sorry about this, viewers, but just got a bit of a technical problem with V getting him in on the chat, so we'll hopefully be there in due course. But we're going to welcome tonight our guest, Richard Monck. Hello, Richard.
Good evening, Ian, and thank you for having me with you all this evening.
It's a pleasure, and so give us a quick run through of what you've got to tell us this evening on your vibe.
On my vibe, I've been asked to come along. We're going to be having a bit of a conversation about Discordianism. If you don't know anything about Discordianism, we're going to give you the information that you'll need to know. If you know anything about the band, the KLF from the 90s, going back a few years, you will know more about Discordianism than you'll ever realize you knew about. We'll talk a bit about the works of Robert Anton Wilson, again, who played around with Discordianism. Maybe we want to talk about a few books, etc. One of the things I'm very much interested in is UFOs, and I'm amazed how it links into the works of Robert Anton Wilson and some other of the authors I'm fairly familiar with, and I'm sure Jonathan and yourself may be familiar with. Carlos Castaneda, various people like that, Terence McKenna, and so on. And their links to the UFO phenomenon. Talk about a variety of things, really. I'm from Newcastle originally, so give me a microphone and an audience, and I'm more than happy to talk for a long time. Geordies are famous for such things. And here we go. I think V's on, so I'll stop talking now.
Can you hear us, V?
Yes.
Good evening.
Yay!
Please go on, Roland. And I'm sorry I'm late. I've been having computer problems. I've just
Roland.
It's not Roland. It's Richard. Roland's in 2 weeks' time.
And Roland's a fat kid off Grange Hill.
Roland.
Fat kid, I'm only trying to help you, Roland. Like he hated that girl, didn't he? If you're a certain age, you'll know what I'm talking about. But,
yes.
I'm too old.
Sorry,
maybe you are.
I can't actually see this very much. I've got this as a tiny little thing right in the middle, and I can hardly make out anyone's faces, let alone read anything. Is it meant to be like this, John? What do I do? Do I click on? Oh, I clicked on that, and it's big.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
There we
nice.
go.
Oh, it's Richard. It's Richard from our group.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Good evening,
All right.
Rick. Yeah.
Hi. Sorry
Yeah,
about that. I thought you
that's
were
all right.
Roland because you were tiny.
It's all right. And a small rat, you know.
Mm.
Hey, rat man.
Oh, you've seen Roland in the shower, have you?
Oh God.
Well, if you
No.
what you want to call
You've
it.
started already.
Fuck off, Squibbs.
Eh?
It's just as well Viv's not here, isn't it?
Mm.
The boys
It
together,
is,
honestly. Good
because,
Lord.
ladies and gentlemen, I have a story to tell you all.
Jackanory, let us begin.
I have a friend who all of you know, but because this is sort of confidential stuff, I'm not going to go, no names, no patrol, as my dear old granddad used to say. But her mother, who lives with her, is quite a bit older than I am and in really bad health condition because she's in lots of pain. And she read somewhere about a substance called cannabidiol B, which is a substance that is made. It does all the things that cannabis does, but it's what's the word?
Rich in cannabidiols.
It's artificial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so because I am a charming man, a white knight, somebody who always, when we have people in distress, will always bend over backwards to please anybody. No, that was V. McCrennan.
Chivalry is not dead. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
But I said that I would get hold of some of these cannabidiol, whatever they are, and I will test some. I will tell you if there's anything which does get rid of some of my pains and doesn't get me high as a kite.
It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Shut up, McCrennan. You haven't fucking heard yet, McCrennan.
All right, go for it.
I then bought my first substance to try. I was convinced it wasn't going to really do anything, because previously when I've bought legal drug substitutes, they've not worked at all, or just been nasty. But I tried these at about 8 o'clock last night, and somewhere between 11:30 and midnight, I was really happily going whoopity woo around the building. Then the sensation didn't go away. It was still there when I woke up this morning. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen?
It's still there now.
As far as I know, the substances I took are legal, or at least that's what they said. And here am I now, I'm afraid. I'm completely off my tits. So this is going to be a very, very interesting show.
Cool. So let me get this right. You took that last night after 10, and you're still...
I took it last night at 8.
Okay, and you're still euphoric with it now?
I'm now from the stage of euphoric rather than some sort of sentient blob back on Pangea, which I was when we started.
Okay.
But yes, I am still totally wasted, man.
And would you describe it as an anti-anxietal? Anxiolytic.
You mean an anti-anxiolytic?
Yeah.
So where can the viewers get these things that you've taken, John? I think that's
I don't mind confessing my
Mm.
weaknesses on dear Vivien's radio show, or whatever it is. And I'm bugging if I'm going to
mm,
advertise chemicals that may or may not be legal or not. I can say how big and clever I am for having taken them, but I am not advertising. If you want to know, and
Message
this
him
is
privately.
as well only from you, Ian, or well, if any of you three want to know, send me a message on Facebook. If a whole bunch of people in the audience want to know, tough shit. So at the moment, I'm still completely wasted, which is why I think it's a good idea to have somebody in to talk about things that are so completely out to lunch that you would not believe them, and nobody could have written this shit. It's about something that we still don't know. Is it a religion masquerading as a joke, or is it a joke masquerading as a religion? Richard, can you tell us a little bit of the history? I would have done this, but I don't know even if I can pronounce. I can't remember his fucking name.
Discordianism, yeah.
Oh no! What's his name? The guy who
With the
started.
pipe. The bike go with the pipe.
The guy who started it.
The guy who started the whole. You probably see this in reverse. It doesn't help. So if you can look at this through a mirror.
Oh no, it's the right way around.
Oh, it's the right way around for some. That's cool. History of Principia Discordia. But go on, look on Wiki. It's easier. Just go and type in Discordianism on Google and have a look. Don't use the crappy AI thing it spews out. Just have a proper look. Pick up a book and have a look. But anyway, Discordianism. I'll get off my high horse in a second.
You're welcome to be on your high horse.
Oh, I'm a slightly high horse myself. It's okay. I had a haircut and people said, "Are you going to be normal?" It's like, no, it's just a haircut. Right.
I haven't had my haircut since my mother died.
Oh, bless.
I knew that she hated me having long hair, so I had my hair cut for that, and I have never had it cut since.
That's fair enough. I fancy to change. I'll try and look normal, but I open my gob and then it just goes out the window. Discordianism or disorganization as a religion was founded in around 1959 by accident. Two friends in a bowling club.
So was I.
You were founded in 1959 at a bowling club in California.
By accident.
Probably by accident. In fact, I was founded at the end of 1958 and only came in to join this happy throng in August 1959. But I was just making the point that Discordianism and me are very similar ages.
And they both begin with the letter D. There you go. There could be something in that. But that's only the fourth letter of the alphabet. If it was the fifth letter of the alphabet, we could start discussing Discordianism and the law of fives. But we can probably save that one for another time. So a bit of history about Discordianism. I am just going to read here from the text. If you want to read, there is a historic manual that was laid down back in the day of this grounding religion. Here we go. Discordianism was founded back in 1958 or 1959. Oh, Jonathan, there you go. Links back into you there. Or somewhere when my colleagues now, Malakas the Younger, and I were observing the chaos spread out before us, the immediate vicinity, the state, the nation, the world, verily the universe. When all of a sudden the air became still and no sound arose from around us, and for no apparent reason the place became black as the bowels of midnight. Then a piercing scream arose from my friend, hidden in the dark, and in the earth began to rumble. Then light, the brilliant intensity from nowhere yet everywhere, then nothing but stillness, and I could still stay conscious no longer. Presently I came to find men in the aisles weeping and women hysterically prostrate across the lanes. We were in a bowling alley, by the way. And there before me, Malcaps the younger, in a spasmodic fit across the floor. Then, quite obviously, something quite profoundly supernatural had occurred. My friend was revived and stammered out the following account of his vision. It's so obvious now, how blind have we all been? All this chaos could not just have happened. There is no coincidence that the moon goes around in reverse orbit, or that the Pentagon is riddled with the eye of the pyramid, founded upon confusion. Somebody has put all this discord here, and thus the beginnings of the religion Discordianism. Later down the line, when Discordianism kicked off and they chose their goddess in which to worship, the goddess Eris, the goddess of discord, the organizers of the religion later on, with some a certain degree of hindsight, said if we knew this was going to actually be real, we probably would have found a religion on the goddess of love, not discord and chaos. But there you go. Careful what you wish for, the universe will give it to you in abundance. There you go. A little bit of history of Discordianism. Starts off with two friends, a vision in a bowling alley, because all good religions got to start somewhere. And from there, some smatterings of writings, which were then later picked up and had a wider audience through the book, the Illuminatus trilogy, which is a book that was co-written by Robert Anton Wilson and Robert Shea. Again, look this up if you're not familiar with it. But again, this is where I mentioned at the beginning, if you're familiar with KLF, a lot of the works of the KLF do reference things that come from the Illuminatus trilogy itself. So a lot of band names come from there, a lot of different references from there. For example, you've all probably seen Better Call Saul. You got Saul Goodman in the Better Saul from Breaking Bad. That's a character from the Illuminatus trilogy. So that was a name picked out of there, used by the chap from Breaking Bad when they wanted a name for a lawyer. Seemed to fit the bill, but there you go. It's quite interesting. So the work itself, the Illuminatus trilogy, very deep, very steeped in pop culture, conspiracy theory. It's smattered with real characters and fictional characters, and it's one of the best books you could ever read, as long as you've got 6 months to dissect it and a good working knowledge of the counterculture in the 60s, going back through and much further. John, go on.
Or read it in the way you read any other book, read it for 6-8 months, and then go and do it again.
Yep, and see what comes up with. It's a confusing read, in as much as Robert Anton Wilson was very much influenced by James Joyce's Ulysses. And so you do, within the work of the Illuminatus trilogy, have characters changing halfway through a sentence. So at some point early in the beginning of the book, you've got a detective investigating something, but the next halfway through the sentence, he's transformed into a squirrel, or at least the character of the narrator has turned into a squirrel and is observing stuff going on in Central Park. So you've got it keeps you on your toes as a book. It's not impenetrable, but it is quite an interesting read. So yeah, go on.
I would say that I should put the point here for any of you who knew my late wife, was that she hated this stuff. But bizarrely, she did like a couple of Fortean novels from the 1930s. Not Fortean, what's the word?
Lovecraftian?
No, surrealistic novels from the 1930s that Doc recommended her. So I love it. I think it's a great novel, and the fact that it doesn't all make sense doesn't matter.
Not at all. So yeah, Discordianism gets that really big audience. If you can say a large audience for a book called the Illuminalis trilogy, which is kind of spouting ideas of sort of a secret order running the world and a bunch of ragtag ruffians trying to kind of bring down and bring order to the chaos through sort of chaos and Discordianism and all that sort of stuff. One of the principal kind of currencies used in one of the groups within the Illuminatus trilogy is everyone gets paid in linseed. So automatically most people are millionaires and everybody's satisfied. So how many millions have you got in lint?
And would it help when reading these books? Would it help if you'd had something that the sort of thing that John has had?
Yes, I would highly.
Yes, I thought.
I myself have ploughed through that book, smoking quite a fair bit to get through it.
Yeah.
A friend from years back tried reading it, found it very difficult to read, and used the audio book version of it.
Yeah.
So there was an online audio book version of this, but I couldn't listen to it because the narrator couldn't say Cthulhu properly. At least my interpretation of Cthulhu, the H.P. Lovecraft monster. Cthulhu in some weird Americanism just didn't gel with me, and I couldn't get past that. And so I kind of took the hard way and read the book.
I think you would love it. It is your sort of book. I don't know why I haven't ever recommended it.
Highly recommend it.
You're about the only other person in the CFZ management that I think probably would like it. Everybody else either I know wouldn't like it because I've tried it on them, or I didn't even want to face doing it even from the start.
So a bit like Trout Mask Replica then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but longer and a bit more complex. But yes. A friend's wife barred me from ever listening to to Sim Captain Beefheart. Mind you, we were camping at a friend's house. It was the end of they were moving house, and so we had this big party in their field. And we were up at 5 o'clock in the morning, a bunch of us still taking acid, still being awake, decided it was the great time to put on Captain Beefheart. So at this point, my friend's wife comes scotching out of the tent. I put up with you all talking all night long. However, this music is way too much. Turn it off now. So, barred from Captain Beefheart at 5 a.m. But it's a good thing to know. There you go. Can clear out parties. How to annoy your friend's wife. I don't think she's ever forgiven
I'm very good at annoying my friends' wives.
This general music can do that. You can clear rooms quite easily if you want to kind of get rid of people. Are you familiar with the work of the kind of Swiss? Is it? Hang on, they're Swiss German or something like that. There was a band in the early 70s called Brain Ticket. If you're not familiar, John, you may be familiar with Brain Ticket. I can't remember their album, but one of their albums had such a warning that came with it: is if you listen to this album more than once a week, you will go insane and all your friends will leave you. I put that on one night to get rid of some people from my house years ago, and people did leave the room very quickly and go. So it does work.
My favourite, I did this weird weekend once because it was 2 a.m. I just wanted to go to bed, milling around in my garden, drinking tequila and smoking dope. For Christ's sake, can't you guys, everyone just ignored me. So I put on the music, "We Hate You Little Girls" by Throbbing Gristle. And then
Sorry, you didn't put the other one on, the Ian Brady song, did you? That could be worse. Sorry.
I will tell you about my ex-girlfriend at one time, on one day.
Did you ever meet?
Like this.
Did you ever come across in your travels Genesis Peorage? There's a nice segue into a conversation there.
I always wanted to. He was always on my list. I wanted to have him at the Weird Weekend.
Gee, lovely. Yeah, I kind of got a copy of the Psychic Bible that came out so many years ago. And I kid you not, I should wave it at you in a moment because I can show this. It was a limited edition, 999 copies that came with a DVD, and they were all signed by Genesis Peorage, right? And I kid you not, mine arrived, and I've got number 23. But it turns out, because I got chatting to various people on Facebook who were friends with, or the Genesis Peorage groups and whatever, because they do exist on Facebook. From investigation, there are other people who also have number 23. So we have a working theory that there was 23 23s. So again, back into Discordianism. Genesis Peorage was a big fan of Discordianism. William Burroughs, big fan of Discordianism. Genesis Peorage, big fan of William Burroughs, and it all kind of links in together. You can always link everything back to Discordianism in some roundabout way. But yeah, I got a copy of the Psychic Bible, which is essentially Genesis Peorage's manifesto that kind of goes from their years within Throbbing Gristle and beyond. Difficult read, interesting read, but quite an interesting piece of literature I have. But many years ago, I was having this intense dream about Genesis Peorage. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't normally remember my dreams because I'm usually quite stoned. But to be having this really vivid dream about Genesis Peorage, I woke up and all I could think about was, why am I thinking about Genesis Peorage? Because I don't normally remember this. Google search what was going on. He was playing in, or the Psychic TV, sorry, were playing in a venue in West London, which was the same venue Pink Floyd used to play at, the UFO Club. It was like an old church, but it was, I can't remember what it was called. But yeah, they played there, and yeah, I got an opportunity to see Psychic TV. But yeah, psychic advertising seemed to work on me. I woke up, why am I thinking of this chap, this Genesis Peorage? Go online or buy tickets to go in London. And so yeah, off I tootled.
Now, Simon from Denmark has just... What the hell are you doing here, Vivien?
Hurrah!
Hi, Vivien.
Hi, Vivi.
Anyway, Vivien is here, and what the fuck are you? Yeah, it came up on the screen. Does that mean I have to stop making drug jokes now?
No, Simon said that he was also a roommate of Lee Harvey Oswald and wrote the biography of Lee Harvey Oswald before the Kennedy assassination.
Not Robert Anton Wilson.
Yeah.
We'll have to look
No.
that one up.
Is that right?
No, I don't. Is it? I'll have to look that one up.
No, Maratopsy. No,
Saron Saron. No.
No.
That's bloody Robert Kennedy.
Saran was in bloody New York Dolls.
All right. Fair, not a terrorist. He's not an anti.
That's the worst statement I have.
But then, why would you write the Lee Harvey Oswald biography before he assassinated Kennedy?
It wasn't actually that. He actually wrote a play.
No. Discordianism. No, the chap from who created Discordianism. That's correct. Sorry, my brain's a bit slow to catch up. Yeah, the guy who wrote Discordianism, the very first original copy was Xeroxed because it wasn't photocopying back in the day on the same machine that the was it? I'm trying to think. Was the guy who investigated the JFK assassination?
Kevin
the one that
Costner.
was Kevin Costner, the guy Kevin Costner played, the original, the actual real guy. I can't remember his name. My brain's gone. But the chap, the real chap, the Discordian guy used the Xerox machine that he used in the same office, basically, to get this Principia Discordia that was used to Xerox the Kennedy assassination documents as well. So yeah, there was a link to it somehow. Yeah, the Discordian chap was probably the roommate of Lee Harvey Oswald.
And you can buy a copy of the Principia Discordia for under $5 all over the internet, and I suggest that you do because it's an interesting insight into what happened next.
how to create a religion and what comes from this, and opens it up. One of the lovely things about Discordianism, amongst the many things and the very strange things, is the ability to be the Pope of Discordianism. But by being the Pope of Discordianism, I'm also enabling the three of you here to also be popes of Discordianism. Now, I don't have exclusive rights to be Pope, so everyone has that ability. We are all the Pope, so go off and be popes.
A quick one as well. Going back to Lee Harvey Oswald, the JFK assassination, that's a no-brainer, isn't it?
In what sense? It was a patsy.
Oh, Ian.
Ian.
I'll get my coat.
That is really, really bad.
I should save that.
It's a great pity that Vivien's here, isn't it? Because Vivien will be scary.
We have to behave ourselves.
But I'm now writing into Vivien.
But please, Richard, please carry on. Sorry about that interruption. I couldn't resist it, though.
No, that's great. No. Where was my train of thought going? I don't know. I was prattling. I could prattling about anything. Genesis Peorage was my last train of thought, and the number 23. But the number 23 will then label us to kind of bring in as a sort of KLF. Familiar, if everyone's familiar with the KLF, go back to the early
Justified
90s.
and Ancient.
They are justified, ancient, and they drive a nice green van. And the lovely Tammy Wynette was roped in to help them sing that beautiful song.
And they said, Tammy, stand by the band.
Stand by the jams, the JAMMs, the jams.
Depends which remix you've been listening to.
This could be it.
I've recently heard some really shit hot Euro trance mixes of that. It's quite amazing. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I could do with the new versions of that. That would be quite nice. Because
I'll see if I can find it.
They were offline for they weren't online at all, were they? But they've recently come back, and you can get sort of the KLF through all various streaming platforms.
Not everything, but
not everything, but there is singles and 12 inches and a couple of albums.
Yeah, it's not as good as I would have liked. It's still better than.
It's better than now. Plus, I get
had the last 23 years. So.
Plus, I get a nice copy of the Time Lords.
Yes.
Oh yes. Genius, absolute genius.
Whenever we have one of two people on this show, it's either my dear, sweet, almost adopted nephew, Dr. Max Blake, or when it's Dr. Darren Naish. And I've got a backing track I've done, so I do it as Dr. Max. Hey, Dr. Max.
Yes.
But really, we shouldn't be doing that, should we? Because we know who did the original.
Well, yeah, but if we did that, we wouldn't be doing it. Well, yeah.
And also, if you look at but we might be in luck because this year we've had Ozzy Osbourne, Hulk Hogan, Robert Redford, the RR, the OO, the
David Lynch as well.
Can GG please be next soon?
I wake up every morning wondering where this DT is gone. No,
I want him to be next anyway.
Fair enough. KLF.
Dirty bastard. Right, go on.
Oh yeah, right. Fair enough. Yeah. Yes, but yeah, no, with a live show, I'm going to behave myself. What kind of?
Nah, not on this one.
On that one. But yeah, what was I going to say? Go on, John.
Are you still there, Vivien? Oh, Vivie Woodykins.
He's who there?
Okay, it's not my fault if Richard oversteps the mark and upsets everybody with his sales of carousing and drug taking. I'm just sitting here like a good little boy.
Yes, you've been very nice, haven't you?
I'll save some of those stories for another time.
Yeah. But Richard,
I've been on
please
two, but
continue. Please continue.
Yeah, with little kind of roundabout chat discording, it'll just come back to this every so
I
often. It's
really
not, I haven't got an agenda, but I'll kind of bring it back in. But yeah, for me, I've a certain vintage, and so some of you guys, maybe the audience as
I
well,
think we're
are
all
familiar
similar.
with the great works of the KLF. Well, the KLF, the Copyright Liberation Front, or whatever they may want to call themselves at that moment in time, began life in a very strange. John, you're going to come in on this one and correct me various along the ways. Not going into the whole history of the KLF, but essentially, when you're breaking down some of their lyrics and some of their kind of songwriting techniques, they draw heavily upon the works, as I mentioned earlier, the Illuminatus trilogy. If you look at any of their videos, there's a narrative theme that goes with it, which kind of links into the Illuminatus trilogy, submarines, things like that. It's very little, but it's kind of in play within there. And there's a lot of Easter eggs before Easter eggs were really that sort of thing. But bringing it back again, before the KLF was actually ever a thing, Bill Drummond from the KLF. Why is my brain not working? Christ, talk to me, John. To the chap from the KLF, Bill Drummond.
Bill Drummond. Let's go back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be in our time machine, so we go. We start on January the 1st, 1987, when Bill Drummond, who's a large Scottish gentleman, and a soft southern shite called what was his name?
Jimmy Cordy.
Jimmy Cordy.
My brain had gone to that point.
Sorry,
it's like,
guys,
know
I'm completely fucking wasted still. But anyway, he phoned up Jimmy Cordy and said, "Do you want to make a hip hop song?" And Cordy said, "Yeah." He said, "And we'll call ourselves the Justified Ancients of Moo Moo."
And that's
and
from the
Cordy said, "Yeah." And that was the end of the conversation. It was the beginning of an absolutely extraordinary year.
They're both very prolific artists in their own right, and that's always been the case, and it still continues through to today. Jimmy Cordy, for instance, again, John, you correct me if I'm wrong on this one. He was working on a stage play. He was doing artwork on a stage play adaptation of the Illuminatus trilogy by Ken Campbell. And if you're aware of Ken Campbell's work, famous Liverpudlian stage playwright, very interesting. Jim Broadbent, I think, had one of his first kind of play appearances in the Illuminatus trilogy itself. But yeah, Jimmy Courtney walked off from it because it was too much work. He went off to get some paint and never went back again.
No, that was Bill Drummond.
That was Bill Drummond. See, I knew you.
Bill Drummond walked out to get some paint and
never came back. That's correct. Sorry. See, I'm glad you're here to keep me right, John.
I don't know Bill Drummond, but I did know Ken Campbell, and I did know John Michel, and I did know Doc Shields, and I did know all sorts of other people like that. And when I think it was 2010, something like that, when that book came out, and what's his name, John Higgs, first came to my attention with a book about the KLF called The KLF, Justified Ancients of Moo Moo and the Band that Burnt £1 million, or something like that. And I read this book avidly and then started at the beginning again and went through it again almost immediately, because it was one of the most extraordinary books I've ever read, and I knew so many of the people. I was just amazed that I knew, I knew I knew somebody. I knew at least two people who'd been to school with Jimmy Corty, but I knew oh God, John Michel, and I knew Ken Campbell, and I knew various of the other people. And so it's been something that's interested me on and off for a long, long time. That I didn't even know Discordianism was a thing until I read this book. And that sent me, woo! And for the 2014 Weird Weekend, John Higgs came down and gave a talk. He's a lovely guy. I'm sure we'll have him on the show at some point. Have you met him, Richard?
No, but I've spoken to him several times online because I've been following for years. Because, yeah, again, like you, I'm aware of his KLF book. It's very good. But prior to that, he did a wonderful book on Timothy Leary. I've Got America Surrounded, which was just an amazing piece of work. And that, I think, was his first one, or at least the first book I'm aware that he was published. But, yeah, off and on, I've followed his works through. He's got some recent ones on Doctor Who and James Bond, which I've not read yet. But I'm sure they're going to be quite interesting.
I've read the one, The Beatles and James Bond. It's an interesting hypothesis. And like John's books always are, it was great fun to read.
Yeah. And that KLF one's a really good introduction because it'll give you that introduction to KLF. It'll give you that beautiful sense because it's not a band story. It's not, sometimes you'll read a band biography and bunch of mates get together, they'll form a band, they'll get screwed over, they'll split up, they'll come back, that sort of thing. It doesn't read on that narrative. It's not at all. It kind of, if you want a refreshing kind of just take on a music band that may not know much about, pick it up, read it, and there's plenty of good direct you some good books afterwards.
Was that you, V?
What? What? Can you not hear me?
Nope, can hear you.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Was what me?
There was a big bangy
crash bang wallop, wasn't there? What a picture.
Oh, I didn't hear
it. Yeah. Okay.
Well, that basically brings you up to date, and the more that I see the world that we're in at the moment, the more the whole Discordian hypothesis, in so much that there is a hypothesis, does begin to make a heck of a lot more sense.
We have bought into somebody else's idea of a kind of Discordian society. I'm not going to get political here, but essentially we are being steered by some people, certain individuals on this. I sound like a bloody Illuminatus trilogy conspiracy theorist when I'm just going to say this, but big tech, for instance, do control an awful lot of how we think. Now, I'm not down with AI. I'm not going to be anti-AI, but I do kind of worry about that because there's a lot of convenience that'll come from people using tools that are going to be sort of that AI can generate. But it does make you think, where's this kind of original thought going to come from? Because it's great that something such as AI will be able to generate a bunch of things that people can use, but where's the human element? Discordianism, it's the antithesis against kind of organized religion in that sense, but it just kind of goes to show that you can, with the power of positive kind of thought, create something new and fresh. Now, a bit random, I'm not fully au fait with this book yet, but I only caught my attention today. Have a look on the website Daily Grail. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that website. dailygrail.com, very good website. I use that an awful lot for kind of news articles on a daily basis, but you get lots of articles about sort of UFOs, Bigfoots and other such things. But there's an article that caught my attention today about a new book, and it's called The Science of Magic. And essentially, I could be wrong. A physicist maybe has written a few books on the idea of kind of what is magic, but essentially, or he may not be a physicist, but whatever branch of science this author has kind of come from, is looking at the real effects of magic. So if you think about not Paul Daniels stage magic or anything like that. But if you think about magic in its kind of real form, it's about you making a change to the exterior world by thinking about it. And it may sound really simplistic by putting it like that, but if you're thinking about something and say, for example, putting it down on paper, you're putting this thought out there, or in a wider contemporary meaning through sort of visual, through sort of YouTube or whatever it may well be, you're putting content out there which is available for that. Where am I going with this train of thought? I've just kind of lost my entire train of thought here. Hang on, I'll come back to this.
I don't know, man. Just listening to it and go, wow.
Yeah, oh yeah, the science of magic. Thank you. That's helped me come back to where I was going with that whole train of thought there. But essentially, yeah, it's about making changes, be it big, small. You can make changes yourself. You can actually make a change internally, which will have an effect on the exterior kind of surroundings by being positive. But if you want to take it further, if you're going to look at the art of neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, Robert Anton Wilson was a big fan of NLP in its early days, and he kind of was I wouldn't say he was instrumental in shaping it, but I think a lot of his ideas came with, or incorporated it, or vice versa. Have a look into the historic aspects of NLP and Robert Anton Wilson, and there is correlation between the two. But the art of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is by phrasing and saying things in a particular way, you're able to get people to react in a more positive way rather than being negative. So a good example here, I'm trying to get political here, is if you look at the speeches of Obama as opposed to Trump. Okay, that's not really a good analogy because a chimp could. No. Anyway, stop it, Richard. But if you look at Obama, if you look at Obama's speeches, when you listen to him, and just go with me on this. If you listen to him, it feels like he's engaging with you. He's not. I know he's not picking me out. He's not. Hey, Rich, I'm going to have a conversation with you. But the way he talks is he feels like you're welcomed into that conversation. You're part of something, and that's NLP. And if you kind of break down NLP, it's essentially magic. It's causing my thoughts affect the world outside me. So this scientist's gone off this trip as well, which is fantastic. And so the art of magic, or the science of magic, is kind of looking a bit more deep into that kind of concept, or I could become completely mistaken, but it looks like something well worth looking into, because I've always been a fan of consciousness. Obviously that sounds a very strange thing to say, but what is consciousness? And throughout the years, we mentioned we have been joking earlier about sort of like drug jokes, etc. But through sort of those activities, people become aware there is more to life. Yeah, that's the bunny. Yeah, the science of magic. Thanks, John. But through the use of psychedelics or smoking weed or whatever it may well be, it opens you up to the concept that what you've been taught from an early age is not necessarily that the be all and end all. I'm a big fan of books, and I'm not a big fan of religion. I'm a spiritual person, shall we say, not a religious person. And I worry, religious people say, I've got one book and that's the book I stick by. And it's like, shit, I've got a lot of books and I've still got a lot of questions. You want to be kind of keeping it open. So consciousness is a really important factor in this. And I find a common theme in everything I kind of look at. One of the things at the moment I'm investigating, or I'm doing, is a lot of work and reading around the UAP phenomenon. But I'm amazed at how much that is actually linked to consciousness. Now, there are folks out there, it's like the Dr. Stephen Greers and things, that will go out and talk about, you can go out and call UFOs, UAPs down. There are other people apparently can do that. And the people, if you watch trashy programs such as like The Curse of Skinwalker Ranch or Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, whether these tests that they do are actually correct, but they've had people on there which they can monitor their brain waves and activities when a UAP's around and see what that brain state goes into. And it calms down, and it's kind of a mellow kind of thought pattern rather than an active brain activity sort of thing. So consciousness plays in some part a great deal with UFOs, UAPs. It has an element to it if you kind of want to go down that route, but it also links into kind of meditation. I'm reading a book at the moment. You might be interested, or you might be aware of it. The Messengers by Mike Selland. Are you aware of that at all?
I'm aware of it. I've never read it, and I couldn't.
Interesting book. I'm looking forward to a chapter where they start discussing the Owl Man of Cornwall, but they've not done it as he's not done it as yet. But essentially, he's looking at owls as maybe screen memories for UFO abductee encounters. But he also talks about synchronicity as well, because there's a lot. He's collected a lot of stories where people have had encounters with 4-foot owls. And people obviously realize there's no such thing as a 4-foot tall owl. And then there's a correlation between the size of greys being 4 foot and the eye thing being similar, etc. So whether sort of aliens have been causing a screen memory on people just to remember it's an owl, it's an owl. But the author then goes into other stories that talk about not just kind of UFO or alien encounters, but how owls are kind of will turn up to people when somebody's like passed. So, for example, a relative, a parent may have passed, and people have on more than one occasion, more than one person's done this. Sorry, has kind of left where that's happened, left the hospital, and all of a sudden an owl will come down. And that person will have that conversation like it's them talking to their father or their mother who's just passed on. And the owl will fly off and they'll just feel a real relief, a sense of kind of relief of it. And this guy cites several stories of kind of similar to that. So owls and what the part they may play, they may be just screening memories of UFOs or aliens, or they may be coming down at different times. Like, for example, they've been known to appear in bunches when people are out in the forests meditating, and owls will kind of just rock up and turn up, and they kind of maybe there is a signifier or something. So it's an interesting kind of vibe to look into, rather than you kind of just common day-to-day kind of Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction type. But the owls are not what they seem, as David Lynch has always said in Twin Peaks.
What?
Richard, have you actually experienced anything like this yourself, though, a UFO or something along those lines?
Yeah.
If I can butt in, Richard, what is the name of that book?
The Messengers.
The
Messengers by Mike Selland, CLE something, blah blah blah. But yeah, I think I did have a UFO encounter. I'm going to go back. It would have been 1979, 1980, so it would have been about 9 or 10, depending on when in the year it fell. And I worked this out because it has always bugged me, and I've been trying to figure this out more recently. And I knew I'd changed schools at some point, so I knew where I was. It was in Washington, a place called Fatfield. Not a great. It's the village of Fatfield, an old mining village in Washington, Tyne and Wear. So I'm going to say about 1979, early 1980. School playground, playtime. I'm kind of, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm looking up at the sky, and some distance away from me. So if you can imagine, you've got a kind of white cloud there in front of you, sort of thing. It's there ahead of me, and behind that cloud, but further down. So it was further away from the clouds, but you could see about 3/4 of it. What I would definitely describe as something very similar to, and I know this is a faked photo, but this is what I kind of saw. And it's only recently I've kind of made the connection between the Adamski photo and what I saw, because it wasn't the same. And it really wasn't, but it was very similar.
Yeah.
And I could see about 3/4 of it, and it was there. And then I turned to somebody in the playground, this girl, and said, "I've just seen a UFO." And she said, "No, you haven't." And I looked back up, and it wasn't there. And this is, over the years, I flip-flopped between I just made this up, or I imagined it, or I've seen something, and it was very much like a flying saucer. And so I've kind of flip-flopped between the two. Was it real, or was it me just imagining, sort of thing? And if it was cloud pareidolia, I would have seen another cloud. Like, for instance, oh, look, I can see a dog. It's now a squirrel.
Yeah.
Not bigger. I'll be honest, I don't really kind of see that much when I'm looking at clouds. You kind of
You don't mistake a cloud for a UFO.
Much later in life, Tribal Gathering 1997, I'd kind of been partying all night long. I may have dropped some acid after I see running into my friends the next morning, and we were sitting out in the car park because nobody was driving a car to go anywhere that day. And I'm looking at the sky, and I saw this cloud, right? And it looks like a Smurf. And I swear to God, it was the most detailed Smurf I have ever seen in my existence. And then I realized, oh yeah, shit, I've dropped acid. It wasn't like that at all, this UFO encounter at all. It was far from it. It was very much there and very much gone when I turned back to have a look at it. And I've always been curious about it. And again, this logic I kind of play with. I was a little sod as a teen. I was about nine years old, shall we say. I was king of BS. I lived in the town of Washington, and I kid you not, when I would go to my grand's in Billingham, I made a friend with this kid, and he kind of mistook me saying Washington for Washington DC. So I just played out this entire thing that I lived in Washington DC for this kid. Obviously, I knew full well I was BSing, but when it came to this UFO, I didn't make a big thing of it. I just said I've seen it, and that was it. And again, 1979, I'm like Star Wars, Star Trek, all that kind of stuff, Battlestar. I would have imagined if I'm seeing something, would I not be seeing like a shuttlecraft from Star Trek or something? But no, it was like a 50s UFO.
Starship Trooper, the song by Sarah Brightman.
There you go.
Must have been around that time.
My old boss sang on there.
Yeah.
Really? But yeah, that was my one and only encounter with a UFO, or what I perceived to be a UFO. That's to say, over the years I flip-flop, but I'm kind of more accepting of it when I've read a lot more literature about UFOs, because what I saw and how it behaved and just all of that kind of stuff around it. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but you can kind of, that's kind of similar to what I experienced, and you can take that away, but equally, something 90 odd percent, and if you actually believe most things, 98% of what we see in the sky or perceive as a UFO is gonna be something we can explain away. Okay, 2% is not much, but if you kind of extrapolate the numbers, there's going to be a hell of a lot you can play with. There's the good stuff, but I am starting a course next month. I hope. I was hoping to start this month, but it hasn't started yet. But if you're aware of the British UFO Research Association, BUFORA, they've been going since 1964. They've probably had a couple of names over the years. But they do a UFO investigators course. I have to be careful not to call it an inspector's course, because I'm not inspecting a UFO, I'm investigating a UFO. But it's a UFO investigators course, in which there's several modules in an exam, and once you pass it, you're a qualified UFO investigator according to BUFORA standards.
Really?
And that'll enable you to, you get a badge and all that kind of jazz. I'm sure anybody in the Tom, Dick, and Harry can do
sheriff's
that.
Badge. Yeah, go on.
You could do, anyone in the granny could do anything on Facebook. So you don't need that qualification, but I think it would be important to kind of have that little back help to go, well, that's a bird, that's a balloon, that's a mothership coming down from 3i Atlas. Shit. So I think it's important to be able to identify what it's not could be. I mean, what it could be realistically, and then hope for the good stuff that, lo and behold, I'm going to find a Betty and Barney Hill down here in Devon somewhere, and I can kind of find out what went on in their probings. But
I'm doing my best to be good here and not
John.
I was thinking the same thing.
But John, he just said probings. Off you go.
Good.
No, I mean,
hey, the floor is open.
Whitley Strieber. Talking of probing and Whitley Street, I was watching a podcast with him being interviewed, and I didn't make the connection, but he was most aggrieved about the very first episode of South Park, because the very first episode of South Park was when Cartman gets an alien probe up his anus.
Yeah, a satellite dish.
Yeah, that's the one. Whitley Strieber said it was all about him, and he was taking it as a personal affront and all this, and it's like, okay, fair enough, but come on, it's a good episode.
Yeah, especially when it unfolds.
Exactly. Are you familiar with William Burroughs? I'm sure everyone's familiar
Yes,
with William
very.
Burroughs. He wrote to Whitley Strieber back in the late 80s after he read Communion, because Burroughs wanted to see aliens massively. He really did. And so he wrote to the Streebers, and they got this nice letter from Burroughs, and they had to write back to him because they wanted verification that he's Burroughs. And then he wrote back something, yes, I can confirm I'm definitely me. And so they invited him up to to the Streebers' cabin in upstate New York, and Burroughs desperately tried to have a UFO encounter. According to the Streebers, Burroughs very polite but disappointed he didn't get a visitor. And then I think Burroughs at some point later on down the line kind of was writing about that in one of his journals and said, yeah, he did feel he was getting communications from outer space, but he just didn't feel he was very good at decoding the message. So, but interestingly enough, he went to school in New Mexico, very close to where they detonated the first atomic bomb. And that was later on near Area 51. Is that correct? Around that same geographical area? Am I correct in thinking that? But yeah, he went to school well before they started doing the bomb testing. But it's interesting that, like, yeah, he had his kind of roots in that kind of area way before anything like that ever happened. So.
Nice. And so what else? What other experiences have you had, Richard, in that kind of field? You live on the edge of Dartmoor, isn't it? Is there?
Yeah.
There's a lot of activity going on around there. Have you, aside from UFOs, have you experienced any other paranormal type?
Not personally, but I know of people who have. Because in January gone, I ended up being roped into being a camera person on a documentary, which is out in November. Not intentionally a plug this thing, but there is a documentary I filmed called, oh God, what's it called? Legend Seekers, which will be out in November. Quick plug there. I'm on.
Where can we see that on YouTube?
I don't know yet, to be honest. I don't know. I still waiting to hear anything about it, but I know for a fact I've got an IMDb Internet Movie Database credit as a cameraman, so I'm quite chuffed for that.
Well done.
But yeah, no, we were out in Dartmoor filming documentary about various cryptid encounters and whatever else people may have had, and somebody did share this tale. They were down the south part of the moor. I won't necessarily say where exactly they were about, but it's a long railway tunnel, so that might help people identify where that is. They've gone off doing a paranormal investigation. They were paranormal researchers. They'd gone down there because they were aware of paranormal incidences that occurred there. Railway line had been long taken up and it had been a cycle path. But as you go under this particular tunnel, it's quite long. And at 11 o'clock at night, they turn the lights off. So it gets obviously quite spooky. So they're down there post 11 o'clock at night. There's a bunch of them doing their paranormal investigation. And they hear footfall coming from atop. They're down on the bottom in the railway, on the cycle track, as it were, and there's embankments on both sides. And so one side they could hear footfall. Now there shouldn't have been many people around. Obviously, that time of the night, it's quite a remote location, and they could probably tell it better than I do, but essentially they were a bit freaked out. They got to the other side of the tunnel, the footfall continued, and then at some point I think something flashed across out the road at them, and that's what they thought. Bloody me, it's a Bigfoot. And they weren't expecting to see sort of like a giant, hairy, Bigfooty type creature. They did later on go back and do measurements and things, and they reckon it was a good 7-footer, just based upon what they'd heard. They couldn't find any footprints or anything. And then as part of this documentary, I went back a bit later on to do a follow-up interview with them, and I went down there. And yeah, it's quite an interesting spot. And I'm skeptical when it comes to sort of that Bigfoot thing in the UK. I'll embrace a bit of UFO, and they could potentially be things from an extra dimension, not like God or anything. But when it comes to Bigfoots, I kind of struggle. But I'm aware of that one person individually who's had that encounter. My own partner had a weird encounter up on the North Devon Atlantic highway, which she kind of gave the report to John about a little while ago. Our friend John here as well has had kind of some sort of, not necessarily a hairy man encounter, because you could probably say a hell of a lot more than I do, but there are people that have these kind of things, and if you kind of read John Keel, so if you know, everyone maybe you're familiar with the Mothman prophecies, but some of those other books like Operation Trojan Horse or Creatures from Space and Time, they kind of talk about like things like Mothman not being biological entities, but they are things that are from another realm. So shall we? He called them ultra terrestrials or something like that. But you know, cryptozoologically speaking, a Mothman type entity could not really exist.
No.
Whereas something that isn't
Sadly,
actually
I
from,
wish it could.
oh yeah, or but you know, it's not really. It's more likely. It's more supernatural than it is kind of
Yeah.
physical than cryptozoological.
It's just, I hate the word supernatural, and
Well,
because no, supernatural and paranormal are shit words, because these things are perfectly natural and they're perfectly normal. It's just we don't understand them. We don't understand the laws of science which are defining them.
no, wasn't paranormal and supernatural been kicking around since what, the 12th century as a phrase, hasn't it?
It
And
has been,
paranormal is a Victorian
I
term, is
think,
that right?
I believe paranormal is Victorian.
Hmm.
Supernatural goes back
Oh yes, centuries.
probably even before that, because it's one of it is one of the words used in the mass of the time.
Well, are you familiar with Jeffrey Kripal's work? Does a lot of consciousness studies, UFO stuff, etc. He kind of, one of the books I was reading introduced me to the guy who, again, I've just kind of stoner who remembers books vaguely.
John's
The guy,
a stono tonight.
yeah, the paranormal, as opposed to supernatural. The term
Oh,
paranormal, the term paranormal was kind of created to kind of supersede the old-fashioned supernatural phrasing. But what's happened over time is what was intended to be this kind of way to kind of parallel to normal. So these things that go on parallel to normal. At the time, it was kind of seances and rocking tables or whatever else it may well be in that kind of Victorian vibe. But it was to kind of bring it more up to date. But over time, the paranormal has become like the phrase supernatural. Effectively, it's kind of lost its meaning and become this kind of overall mishmash of everything. Everything that kind of pertains to the weird and unknown. But yeah, I get what you're saying. We need new terminology for what is running. So initially, something that was running parallel to normal was kind of like revolutionary and groundbreaking.
yeah.
But give it 150 years or whatever, it becomes like tripe.
Nice.
So what are you working on at the moment?
Not me.
You.
I mentioned
You.
I'm starting on my Bufora course, the British UFO Research Association, and of late I've put myself to work just putting something together. I feel I've got things to say, but I don't feel I am ready to write any sort of books yet, because all I would be doing is regurgitating other people's kind of works.
Well,
If I have a
that's what
general
being a
framework,
writer is.
if I have a framework to build that around, then obviously, yeah, you can have fun with it. I've got lots to dip into. But I'm kind of just at the moment putting a little collective together, the Devon Anomaly Collective, DAC. I was considering the Devon Investigators Collective, but I realize that's probably not the best one. But the Devon Anomaly Collective so far is me, so it's not much of a collective, if I'm brutally honest. And if I'm dead honest, I got AI to create me a logo and everything that I made it put to work. So it's more of an experiment in getting things to kind of see what this AI malark's going to be all about. But it's given me some good things to look at, because what I've done is I got involved with a little bit of AI, because unfortunately bring up the dreadful work thing, but I'm kind of having to take this on board. And so whilst I'm doing it, I'm kind of utilizing it in ways that I want to kind of see, can it produce interesting results? Now, one of the things it provided for me was a detailed analysis of a UFO encounter in Holsworthy back in 1967. I don't know if you're aware of it. It was the Holsworthy Cross.
I know about it, that one.
Yeah, it was a big thing at the time. Two police officers chasing a UFO down the back streets of not the back lanes of West Devon in 1967, I think in October, and it resulted in the sort of speed pursuits of 80 odd miles an hour. So obviously back in 67 you're going to have to be going some in your Morris Minor or whatever the police had back in the day down those routes. But that's what made the story so interesting, by the fact it was two police officers and there was a lot of detailed report. The MOD got involved with it and they kind of provided an analysis, and there is kind of the MOD reports now available through Freedom of Information, as well as both police officers' reports. And the fact it made the front page of the Times newspaper, like the main Times newspaper in London, the day afterwards, was quite an interesting thing. But the general overall conclusion at the time was they were chasing the planet Venus because it was exceptionally bright that night. And you say, how many people have allegedly gone down that route? Because I know somebody who got in touch with me, and they themselves had said, can you look at this and tell me what you might think it is? And I'm looking at it and explaining, okay, what time was this taken, blah blah blah. Bit of deduction later, I realized, yeah, lo and behold, it's the planet Venus. And she said, oh yeah, it's kind of there every night around the same place. So but a bit of explanation as to what it was. But yeah, it could have been not, well, it was nothing, but it was, it's good to know. I didn't go down the road, that's complete nonsense, let's have a look, but was able to explain, have a look at this is what I looked at, this is how I managed to figure that out, take a look yourself. But yeah, a way to learn something new through something quite small. There's interesting things out. So what am I actually doing apart from talking a load of nonsense? I don't really know. I've been trying to figure that out the best part of my adult life. And so what am I working on right now? I'm working on figuring out what the hell I do every day. I'd like to go back to America, but I'm not going stateside for a little while. It's went to Oregon last year to do some sort of looking around Bigfoot wise, because apart from UFOs, I'm a big Bigfoot fan, a Bigfoot fan, if you can be such a thing, enthusiast. So the hairy hominid, that's kind of out there. But you go across somewhere like Oregon, and you can kind of really see why something like a Bigfoot could really be wandering around out there. But you go down the woods in bloody Dartmoor, you're not going to see a Bigfoot. Unless it's got a portal from somewhere.
Some people do that.
Oh yes. Early on in my Bigfoot career, I'm quite an open-minded person, but sometimes one's spidey sense does go off when you kind of encounter sort of groups and you think this isn't quite right, but I want to kind of just have a nose to see what's going on. Within the Bigfoot world, very much there are people who very much believe Bigfoot's a flesh and blood entity, and that's it. And the argument is it a relict hominid, i.e., is it kind of one of our human ancestors from before we were Homo sapiens, or is it some sort of giant ape or whatever it may well be? Then there's the other camp. There's the other camp which comes into Bigfoots come through portals, Bigfoots, can cloak, Bigfoots can teleport and all that kind of jazz. So you get that woo-woo crowd, and they are quite interesting. I look into that. We kind of don't do too much, because a lot of the woo-woo books will quote like Nikolai Tesla, for instance, and any book that starts quoting Tesla at me is kind of a big no-no. It's a big turn-off. It's like, nothing against Tesla personally, but they kind of use that to justify some weird ass shit sometimes. So the woo crowd, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I encountered this group. So looking into the idea of what is going on is there a possibility of a British Bigfoot? And so I look into this group. Okay, I'm not going to say any particular names, but I got invited. I'll backtrack a bit. Sorry, I was buying some Bigfoot related items from a store on eBay, and I struck up a little correspondence with the person who was selling the items, and he told me he had a book that was coming out. That was it. And so I said, "Oh, let me know. I'll be interested to read what your book's all about." And this book turns up. I got a nice signed autographed copy when it came out, because I like a nice signed autographed book. And I'm reading this first book and his book, and it's like, okay, there's all these photos of Bigfoots and stuff, but Christ, there's a hell of a lot of red circles galore to indicate you there's the Bigfoot here. It's like, there is not. There's a bunch of trees. I can't see them. But anyway, I kind of got involved. And this author then invited me to join his own private Bigfoot group that's on Facebook. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll be interested to see, just to kind of see what's going on. And he said, "You've got to have an interview." I said, "Pardon? You've got to have an interview with this person. He's our moderator." I said, "Okay." He said, "Yeah, you've got to arrange a 30-minute video interview with him."
Oh,
Like, nobody in my, I know, but this is it. At this point, my alarm bells are ringing like hell. But I need to know, because there's a certain curiosity behind this. I want the story. So I said, okay. So I arranged for this 30-minute video interview with this chap. I'm not going to give his real name. Let's call him Jim. So Jim arranges this phone call when his wife had gone shopping, because his wife doesn't like him doing these things whilst she's at home. Jim interviews me for 30 minutes about supernatural Bigfoot stuff, but he's asking me whether I'd seen like any sort of strange black cats, a variety of other things. And I knew this was going somewhere, because every so often this Jim chap would say, "I need to consult this Bigfoot orb that lives in his house," because essentially him and his group were linked to this, as I discovered later on, are linked to an American group, which ultimately, there's one person in that organization who is the human representative on Earth, who through the creation of this homemade Tesla device opened a portal from this planet of the Bigfoots to invite all these Bigfoots over from this planet to Earth through a puddle in Oregon. They then came forth and they live in various trees around the world. So this guy Jim tells me in the nearest woods to me that, oh, there's two Bigfoots who live in a tree, and if you go down there and meditate, they'll come out. So I thought, I'm having fun with this, and I tried to do some leading questions, because I knew I'm going to BS him just to see what would come up. And I was going, yeah, when I meditate on a night, I kind of see this giant Bigfoot head in front of me. Is this the Bigfoot you're talking about? And he'd go off camera, come back a moment later. "Oh yes, my Bigfoot such and such says there, yeah, you're seeing, that's a Bigfoot manifestation of this," and all this, that. And I quickly got out of there after my politeness and stuff. But as it turned out, lo and behold, they're part of this larger group. Squatching USA is the larger group, and there's a guy called Dr. Matthew Johnson. If you look him up, interesting cat in America. Yeah, essentially brings this entire tribe of Bigfoots over to the Earth. He's the human representative on Earth. After this council of the 12 Bigfoots, he's the one human, and then Bigfoots tell him what he needs to tell people. And it's amazing though how this Bigfoot doctrine is he's quite pro-Trump, he's quite Christian, he's quite this. And I'm going, the Bigfoots wouldn't do any of these things, surely. But anyway, he's got this thing. And I don't know if you're familiar with the late Henry Franzoni. Are you familiar with him? He's a Bigfoot researcher back in the day.
I know the name, but I can't
Yeah.
anything about him.
He's in a great Bigfoot documentary called Sasquatch Odyssey. You can find it on YouTube. He's quite young in that documentary because it was filmed in the late 90s. And he starts off this documentary with him in the woods with a massive drum kit, and he's drumming for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
It's a
I've
great
seen that actually.
documentary.
Yeah.
Yes, very cool. Henry Franzoni, I struck up a bit
Mhm.
of correspondence with him, and Henry Franzoni had met this Matthew Johnson guy, and the Matthew Johnson had wanted Henry to kind of get on board and do a film series, a TV series with him, but Henry was too weird for the likes of Dr. Matthew Johnson and didn't do it, and unfortunately he passed away. Was it last year? Bless him. So, but yeah, I had long conversations with Henry Franzoni about the Matthew Johnson Bigfoot cult, and yeah, it's interesting when you want what's out there when you start looking. You think it's just about friendly giant hairy hominids out there, but you never know what goes on in the deep woods in Britain. Sorry, I'm prowling up there.
Can you say the name of that YouTube video again?
Yeah, Sasquatch Odyssey.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Sasquatch Odyssey. It's a very good documentary. It's got some very good people being interviewed in there. A very young Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who recently passed away, bless him, which is quite a sad shock for the world of Bigfootery. And
it was.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the Bigfoot orb you mentioned. That's
yeah.
Have you got any more information on that? That's sort of like a bit of a crossover type.
Yeah, I consider orbs to be one thing and Bigfoots to be another, but there are people, again, the Bigfoot Woo camp, and even Matt Moneymaker of late of Finding Bigfoot fame. He was being interviewed on a recent episode of Bigfoot and Beyond, talking about orbs, and he was saying he's not saying there's a direct correlation between orbs and Bigfoots. He just happens to be out looking for Bigfoots, and then you see these orbs. And some are like the size of like footballs, apparently. Some of the size are like beach balls or whatever, and they're different lights. But he's encountered them on numerous occasions. I know of other people, again, who've encountered them. But this Matthew Johnson Bigfoot cult reckon the orbs are the Bigfoots, and that's what they do use to move around with.
That's quite interesting, because if you listen to Paul Sinclair and some of the cases that he talks about up around Yorkshire, around the coast, a lot of those things are associated with orbs, and they're not all Bigfoots. They're big sort of hyena-like things, which we've had similar reports near me in Bristol, and also these sort of upright dog-like things.
Dogman things?
Yeah. They've been reported in close proximity to each other a number of times, and going back quite a long way as well.
Oh, okay.
We're talking hundreds of years.
Because the orb phenomenon is ancient. Because there was some, obviously we talk about in this country, it's like will-o'-the-wisps and things like that. Marsh gas, but some places don't have that marsh gas, do they? So what is it? But they're a bizarre phenomenon, and that you get these orb encounters again with UAPs and UFOs. They're not necessarily the kind of one and the same, but the
Foo Fighters. The Foo Fighters were kind of like orbs, weren't they? Most of the descriptions of the Foo Fighters in the war.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Patrick Jackson's Quantum Paranormal book?
No.
Him. He kind of. It's a great book. It's really interesting. I'm not really a paranormal kind of person in that respect. But what he did is an investigation. He was kind of just by pulling the numbers, kind of talking about paranormal events and things, saying they're not. It's not realistic that they are the ghosts of our ancestors or whoever, because again, play the numbers game would just be inundated with ghosts. But what he was trying to hypothesize was like what people talk about paranormal events. Poltergeist type events. Appear very mechanical, and he hypothesizes that they're kind of cloaked technology, like orbs, very much similar to I guess like the Boogosphere or even the Betsphere from the 70s that was discovered in Florida. If you look at the Boogosphere, it's kind of this metallic orb thing, but when you kind of see it at a distance, it's gonna be reflective. Or if you kind of play the idea that things are moving into our plane of existence from somewhere and moving out. So again, bearing in mind, we only see X of the spectrum. And when sometimes people talk about UFO and orb encounters coming in, they're coming in through the ultraviolet, infrared, and then out through the ultraviolet out the other side. So you're gonna, was it that way around or the other way around? Either they'll come in as blue and out as red, or vice versa. But they do move through, and at some point they become that visible kind of thing that we can see. But at certain points you get to see this white element to it. It's a very strange thing.
It's quite interesting what you're saying there about the ultraviolet, because I've looked at I've been on UFO sighting trips with infrared and ultraviolet equipment, and even when you've got a lit up sky, it's like early evening, 6-7 p.m. in the summer. You can see the sky clearly. There's nothing there in the visible frequencies. You put an ultraviolet reader on it, and you've immediately got a whole bunch of them just sitting there.
Yeah, they are waiting to come through into the spectrum. I don't know. That's amazing, because you're not the only one. I've read about this. I'm very much the armchair investigator, but that's not you're not alone in that. And that's what makes it fascinating.
Yeah.
That you don't see anything in the sky from what people are saying, like you're saying, and then you put your filters on and, like, crying out loud, that's there.
Yeah.
So, disappointed that we don't see as much as we should be able to see.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame we don't come with
extra filters.
Extra UV filters on our eyes.
It does make you wonder whether cats can see these things, because my cat sits there sometimes. It's like, God, are they actually looking at a portal? It's like, oh, hello, come on through.
Well, I'm sure cats and bees and most insects can, because they can see in ultraviolet. They can see a huge panoply of colours that we can't see.
Wow. Will we ever allow that technology to do that, though? That would be so cool.
I wouldn't think it would be far off now with the
I
way
know.
AI is encroaching into human biology. These globalists, that's what they're aiming for, isn't it? Really, is uniting humans with biology with futuristic technology, and turning people into cyborgs. In fact, I was listening to this guy that speaks on behalf of that bunch in Davros recently, and he was saying that we're already at the stage where they've developed technologies to help disable people, whereby there's a woman who's got two robotic forearms and hands, and you can take one of her hands off and put it on a table, and she can still control it and make it walk around like that thing in the Addams Family, even though she's sitting on the other side of the room. And I saw this excerpt from one of those sort of Good Morning Britain type shows where she was doing this, and I thought, oh my God, how close are we to that?
That'll come in handy.
Yeah, it's great. It's great for helping disabled people, but I'm really worried about the idea of them starting to turn people effectively into Borg.
Well, I don't know, because my mum, my parents, they're late 70s, and my mum's got like artificial hip and things like that, and like her mother wouldn't have been able to have that sort of level of comfort at her age. So there's going to be benefits to this, but sorry,
we need a poster then to advertise your appearance on this show, saying "Son of the Cyborg."
Cyborg mother.
Yeah, it's a two-edged sword, isn't it? Technology.
As long as it's used correctly.
Yeah, it all comes down to whether or not the people doing the science have any ethics, or whether they're just doing whatever they're told to do because they're being paid big money.
Unfortunately, I doing negative Nancy here, but the money's there and they'll do what they have to. And I'm not an anti-scientist. I like science. I'm not like, oh God, don't do away with the scientists, as maybe some Trumpists seem to kind of go down that route or whatever. I'm pro-science, but it's demanded by a lot of it is controlled by the money. Those who are controlling the purse strings will control what they can dictate. I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, bemoaning the fact that where's the adventurous scientists? And it's like, well, they don't get the grant money.
Yeah, that's exactly what the problem is.
Unfortunately,
it's all about big big massive industries with billions of dollars to invest controlling all the purse strings, even in the universities. I mean, you take Oxford and Cambridge universities have been involved for decades in producing nanoparticulates that NATO has been using for this so-called geoengineering. And it was only, 10, 15 years ago, if you even mentioned what they were doing, spraying nanoparticles up there, you'd be called a conspiracy nut. It wasn't until the German Air Force actually did some of this geoengineering spraying, and some poor innocent German weatherman on national TV actually said, "Oh my God, look what is happening in the sky. We've seen this happen live. There are stripes." And he's saying at that altitude that cannot be vapor trails. And it became a big news story in Germany. And finally, because of that, NATO admitted that they were doing this. And the thing is, they haven't asked anyone, have they? They haven't asked any of us if we want to have nanoparticulates, which, if you get hit by one moving at 30 miles an hour, will penetrate all layers of your skin because it's so small. It's like a needle prick. Nobody's been consulted, have they? And that to me, that kind of says we're past the age where people in science commonly held to a common set of ethical values.
What goes on behind those curtains, I'm afraid. It's do we need to know about these things? Bring it to the UFO thing. It's there's so much goes on that we just don't get to know about, because it's with that big business. It's with the Lockheed Martins or whatever else is going on. It's out of that public scrutiny, and it's just like, well, we're never really going to get to the bottom of this, ever. It's a damn shame.
We've had some questions coming from Ned Bruce in Australia, so I'll read the questions. I'll do them one at a time. Thing. Can I ask, has anyone got any legitimate evidence? Well, now what's happening?
Have we got any legitimate evidence of UFOs, UAPs? Interesting. Go on.
It's legitimate evidence with the new technology these days. I would think that by this time people would have had concrete evidence.
Go on, sorry.
I was going to say there are some videos on YouTube of people doing the sort of thing that we were doing, except that they had UV, infrared, and visible spectra cameras mounted on a unit where they're all next to each other, and they're kind of dialed in so that they're they're looking at exactly the same frame of sky. There is evidence in that way of these things where you can see there's nothing there in the visible spectrum. You can't see anything in the infrared, but in the ultraviolet you can clearly see a structured craft. There is that sort of evidence.
If you want something else as well, was it February in Buga in Colombia? The Buga sphere, as it's now known, was spotted in the sky, hit an electric power cable, and came crashing down. Now, it's been investigated by various folks, and some people may even bring into question some of the folks themselves and their legitimacy. But what they've tried to do when they've discovered this sphere, when it was provided to a university and started being analyzed, is it went from a particular weight, and it increased in its weight over at least twice after it crashed, and it's still emitting a kind of electromagnetic signal. X-rays on this sphere itself that they discovered show it's got like what's the word? Like fiber optic cables type things in there. It's made up of various parts within there, but actually if you look at it, it's got no sort of evidence of welding or seams or joins or anything across the whole thing. The X-rays internally are really baffling. There's some weird ass etchings on this that even AI's kind of looked at and tried to analyze, and it's old according to that. Whether it's an art project or not, in a fake, if it's an art project and fake, somebody has created this most amazing piece of technology. Recent investigations on the resin that is encasing the fiber optic cables just about on the outside come back and say this art, the resin itself, if you believe this or not, is something like 12,600 years old. I think give or take 30 years. There may be some question into that. I don't know. That could be, may not be fully accurate.
Is that based on carbon?
Yeah, carbon resin. That's on
Okay.
the kind of out where the cables are, or whatever they want to call them, fiber optics. So that's come back from the university, I think in Colorado or somewhere. But then I was looking into that a bit more, and there may be some sort of doubt on that resin on the way it builds up, etc. But it's still quite interesting. I know whether you're a fan of Graham Hancock and you believe that there's been mysterious civilizations well before we came along or not, there is evidence of more technologically advanced society than we kind of given it sort of credit for. So, for example, if you Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, for instance, that's 12,000 years old. So at the back end of the Younger Dryas period. So the back end of the very last sort of ice age, or as part of it. And this device that was discovered in Buga in Colombia is older than that. And so, or potentially older than that, given the information that we've got to go on. So it does make you wonder what's gone on before we know anything about.
Exactly.
I'm not Graham Hancock here, but is there more that has gone on previously? Is this like stuff older than we kind of think about?
Well, there has to be. There has to be. There's too much evidence, isn't there? I mean, even down to what's going on in Egypt. We've got a bunch of Egyptologists who are career scientists saying that the what do you call it? The big lion is so old. The Sphinx is so old, and that it's been worn down by sand. But you can clearly see that it's not been worn down by sand. It's been worn down by water. And that dates it a lot earlier, thousands of years earlier than what they're saying.
Again, back to that Younger Dryas period as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whether Plato was correct in Atlantis, all these new ages will be dead happy. Totnes, twinned with Atlantis, would be very happy. But these things keep me awake. My partner, bless her, when I kind of started reading a bit more into the UFO subject, she did say, God, it was inevitable. I wondered when you'd be starting this. But, I could have taken a brass rubbing or football. Exactly. I could have taken a brass rubbing or football or something. But I don't know. Could I talk about football for 90 minutes? I doubt it.
No. Could you talk about brass rubbing for 5 minutes?
God, well, I'll give it a go. One of my... I had to, in my workplace, I once had to give a presentation on hedges. And in order to jazz up my presentation about hedges, because it's what I do, I don't do hedges, I just got to work in the farming community for the, well, I'm not going to say where. But I had a presentation to give, and in order to jazz this up, I thought, God, I've got to find something interesting about hedges. And the most interesting fact about hedges I could find? Do you know the longest hedge in the world? Does
No.
anybody? It was during the reign of the British in India. So what, 18, whatever it was. We created the British Civil Service. Created a hedge that was called the Great Hedge of India, and it was essentially to kind of create a barrier for salt tax, but it ran for something like 2,500 miles. And it was the
Wow.
longest maintained sort of hedge border in the world. But yeah, thanks to the British Civil Service
Do
and
you-
their desire to
Well,
tax the
good done, you chap.
yeah, it was something to be proud of. It's like
Richard,
great.
do you know how they did it? Was it a layering, or was it just lots and lots of trees planted?
It wasn't all continuous. I think there was various bits that were continuous, but they did try to give it that whole continual thing. Whether they went down that sort of Cornish hedge route or the British hedge route, I don't know, or the Cornish or Devon hedge route.
Well,
I don't know how you
it's actually the length and breadth of Britain. In fact, the billhooks that you get all over England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, they're actually different shapes for each county.
Mm.
If you go into a layering thing, you'll see that there are many different ones, but the skills, the actual techniques that they use, are slightly different.
Where were you when I was doing my hedge presentation? That's what I was saying.
Okay, guys, two things. One, I remember back from when I was doing my training 40 fucking plus years ago, and we were told that idiolects were like dialects in the way that they spread and worked on each other.
What's an idiolect?
A particular area's behavior on a particular thing.
Oh,
And
I
it's
see.
like, maybe they cut bread with in a different way than they do in the next village. I'm not talking about really, really massive differences. I'm talking about the same sort of differences that prove evolution in when two small brown birds over generations become two small brown birds with a pink dot on top of their head.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. It's tiny differences, but that's what makes up a culture. But guys, we've overshot. I know we always overshoot, but this time, just when I was trying to impress dear Vivien, just to prove that I could do a show, yeah, fuck off, yes, I am still so.
Fair enough. We're going to wrap up, but we've got time for a quick exercise. I've got some homework for people to do. If you look up, mention the works of Robert Anton Wilson. He's got a great book called Prometheus Rising. There's several exercises in this book, but I'm going to give you one, and I'll keep this succinct because obviously John's mentioned we have gone over. But here's an exercise for you. Bearing in mind, this was written this was first edition 1983. My edition was from 2000, so it's getting on a bit. Yeah. So bear in mind this exercise. Use your own item or your own thing in place of this item, and then you might manifest something. So an exercise for you to take away. Have a try with it. I honestly can say I've tried this exercise a few times because I love this book, and it does work. So bear this in mind.
So how do you do it?
Well, here we go. Let me tell you. Here we go as we wrap up. So a little exercise to do. So it's about thinking and then proving reality. So it's about you manifesting something and then making that thing appear. So visualize a quarter. Obviously, we're not all American, but visualize a pound coin, a £2 coin, whatever it may well be. They do still exist in this day and age. I know it's hard. It's hard to identify, it's hard to use Google Wallet in this exercise, but you might get a mobile phone out of it. So, but anyway, what you choose to visualize is what you're aiming for effectively. So as Uncle Bob, Robert Anton Wilson, says in his book, visualize a quarter vividly, and then imagine vividly that you're going to find a quarter on the street. Then look for the quarter every time you take a walk. Meanwhile, continuing to visualize it. See how long it takes for you to manifest a quarter or a pound coin or £2. You've got to take your walk. You've got to think about a £2 coin or whatever you're doing. Please insert your own currency here. But manifest it. Think about it. Think about it. Go for a walk. Think about it. And it does appear. Bizarrely, it has happened before, and I can guarantee it. But, you know, if you could become a millionaire, find a lottery ticket, that's cool. Do that too. But there you go. There's an exercise for everyone to do if you want to kind of wrap up and take it from there. There you go.
Question 1: will you come back and do some more on a different occasion?
Yeah, I can talk. Yeah, I can talk. If I was planned, I could even have a structure to my conversation.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, we don't want fucking structure. But it's lovely. Thank you very much for coming, my dear boy. It was lovely to see you.
And you.
And let's do this again. And yes, somebody told me once that this channel was rapidly becoming just a place I could meet up with my mates. So yeah, pretty much. And I'm going to try and get John Higgs on.
Get him. He's good. I like his books.
Oh, I love his books. They're fantastic.
Yes. I was at work years ago when the Timothy Leary book came out, and I was reading it, but I wasn't reading it whilst I was working. I'd gone out for a cigarette break, and this woman was reading the book, the John Higgs Timothy Leary book, and I was like, "Oh, where did you get that book from?" I swear to God, I thought she'd managed to pick it out of my bag. Turns out she was reading the book herself. We both had our own copy, and we became firm friends after that. It was very cool.
What are the odds of something that obscure and esoteric and somebody working next to you is...
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And I thought, she can pick up my bag and get me book out. And I was like, no, I've got my own book. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. But yeah. Very good. Get him on.
Okay, chaps.
I just want to tell you this.
Yes, you can.
My friend Gary Gunby, back in 1984, I think it was, he told me that before he became a probation officer, he was working on a building site and he was reading The Lord of the Rings. And this Irish fella working next to him, he said, "So what's that about? Is it about homosexuals then?"
It's a no-brainer.
And that was what you wanted me to hold up, ending the show for.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, joke.
Congratulations, you understand the spirit of this fucking peculiar circle. Goodbye, everybody. And
bye, everyone.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you, Ian. Thank you, Vivien. Take it easy. See you later.
Who we got next week?
Some bloke.
Yeah, some bloke.
Yeah.
Is it Roland?
Some young guy.
No, we've got two more before him.
Is it Bridget?
The cream of some young guy.
Older Bridget.
I was waiting for that bit.
What about Nettie?
No. Okay. This is really fucking appallingly badly done, isn't it? I have to come on the show off my tits.
You've done well tonight, John, considering.
I think I've done
take another couple of gummies, you'll be all right.
Considering your 3 sheets to the wind, you've done fantastically.
I want to take some acid next time to do this. Anyway, where was I? Got sidetracked. What was I doing? I know what I'm doing. Everybody thinks, well, because we're the best.
Have a look in the 40 and Friends group. No, the other one, because you put it in the chat the other day.
40 and Friends. Is anyone familiar with, Nigel Watson's work in 40 and Times?
Yeah.
It was the UFO chat. I was down in, where was it? Port Elliot in Cornwall the other week for one of his chats, which was very nice. His chat would have been great. However, it was Port Elliot House, and they seemed to want to rush him through very quickly. He had like more slides than he had time for, but I was like,
All right.
But it could have been really interesting had he been allowed longer. You need to get him on because he's got some good stuff to say. There you go.
Okay, this time. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao for now. Take care, guys. Bye.
I think, where the hell is it? I'm very professional. Time to go home. Time to go home from your simply spooky adrenaline ride. Time to go home. Time to go home. Even if you're terrified. Goodbye. Time to go home. Time to go home. Vivien and her weird friends are all going home. Time to go home. Time to go home. Vivien is waving goodbye. Goodbye.